Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Hey, what's up with it, fam? It's Hot Boxing Minute, your favorite pharmaceutical engineer turned boxing analyst, back at you with that uncut realness. And what an amazing weekend of boxing we had. I hope the boxing fans and boxing degenerates are happy with that crazy-ass weekend we had. It actually started on Thursday night. Out there in France, they had that fight between Carlos Gongora and Christian Mbili, a candidate for Fight of the Year. Those two were slugging it out. Hats off to Christian Mbili on getting that decision win. Carlos Gongora can hold his head up high. This Saturday, we had competing cards between Top Rank and PBC. I'm only going to talk about the main events that were on that PBC card. I had my computer going with the laptop. The Top Rank fight was going on. The one that was headlined by Jose Ramirez and Richard Comey, co-headlined by Sinisa Superbad Estrada and Tina Ruprecht. But I was just too captivated by what was going on in that PBC card, so maybe if I get a chance, I'll go watch that ESPN card all over again. But that PBC card out there at the MGM Grand, Showtime put on what an amazing fight card. I hope we are at least in agreement with that was an awesome fight card. Headlined by, of course, El Bandera Roja, David Benavidez going up against Caleb Plant. You know, the only loss Caleb Plant had prior to that fight was against Canelo Alvarez. And the other big fight that was on that card that had everybody talking was the Chris Colbert Rayo Valenzuela fight. That ended in controversy. And there were some other fights on the undercards. Jesus Ramos put the beating on Joey Spencer. I was never high on Joey Spencer, so there's no loss there. Jesus Ramos put the beat down on Joey Spencer. I feel like Joey Spencer maybe tried to move up a little too fast for his handlers. Either way, Jesus Ramos, hats off to him. He got the 7th round stoppage. The best next step, in my opinion, would be Jesus Ramos versus the Slender Man himself, Sebastian Fundora. I think that would be an awesome fight. Stylistically, it would mesh very well between them two. And what was the other one? Oh, Abel Ramos caught the L in a decision against Cody Crowley. Cody Crowley's a tough dude. You know, he gutted it out, fought on the inside. I don't know what's next for Cody Crowley, but he's just outside of, the top 5 in the welterweight division. So give him somewhere in the 5 to 10, maybe a Yordanis Ugas. I don't know, but Cody Crowley is a tough competitor, but I have questions about his ability at the highest tiers of the welterweight division. It's the welterweight division. But the big fight that was controversial on the undercards, Rayo Valenzuela against Chris Little B-Hop Colbert, or against Primetime now. Now, as I was watching that fight, I was kind of like scoring it nonchalantly round for round, and I had given it to Little B-Hop. I gave it to Chris Colbert. When the decision was read, the crowd booed. Rayo and Chris Colbert ended up having a back and forth on set. Now, Rayo Valenzuela was landing the more consequential punches. This is how I saw it. I made a video about how I agreed with the decision and put it on TikTok, and I got so much blowback for it. It's unbelievable. And this is to be expected. Anytime there is a close fight with really tight fight results at the very end, it's always controversial. Whether it be Cattrall versus Josh Taylor, whether it be Tank versus, Pitbull Cruz. And in this case, we got Chris Colbert and Rayo Valenzuela, and people are livid about the fight results. Welcome to the boxing game, folks. And I agreed with the decision. And I didn't know the hell on a half shell I was going to open up on that one. I was getting cooked in the comment sections. I gave Rayo Valenzuela the rounds that he had hurt Chris Colbert in. Round 1, he got the knockdown. It's a 10-8 round. Round 6, he had him hurt. And round 8, he had him hurt. Other than that, I felt Chris Colbert was doing enough, controlling the flow of the fight, and staying in front of his face and walking down the bigger man of Rayo Valenzuela to win the other rounds. At the very close of the 10th round, he also got tagged pretty hard by Rayo. But it really was within like the last 10 seconds. And that leaves, so with this question of Colbert versus Rayo and that crazy controversial decision, how much do we weigh the heaviness of Rayo's punches against the work that Chris Colbert was putting in? Rayo clearly won the rounds where he hurt Chris Colbert, and when he would get him hurt, he would throw off sporadic, blitzes of shots, but he wasn't finishing the job. and then Chris Colbert would recover in the next round and would pretty much, as far as I could tell, win the next round. And that was just kind of the story of the fight. It was Rayo doing flurries, hurting Chris Colbert, ultimately Chris Colbert surviving, and then Chris Colbert going back to putting in that work, staying in Rayo's space, and walking him down. That's how I saw it. So a lot of controversy in the decision. How you weigh it is all dependent on you. Unfortunately for Rayo, he didn't get the knockout. Now Rayo did have Chris Colbert hurt at various points in that fight. Round 1, round 6, round 8. But he didn't kill. He didn't finish it. He didn't get the knockout. Now, I remember in the fight with Edwin De Los Santos, when Rayo got hurt, he bit his gum shield and slugged it out, and he lost the slugging exchange. Something happened in that fight to where Rayo didn't feel comfortable biting down on that gum shield and finishing the job when he had Chris Colbert hurt. And that cost him the fight. People are talking about conspiracies. People are saying that, oh, it was rigged. It's a PBC fix or something with Al Heyman. You already know how it goes in close fight decisions like this. I don't really know why people in the early part of their career like Chris Colbert and Rayo Valenzuela would be part of some big fix. Sorry, it escapes my imagination, but the judges scored it what they scored it. What was it, 95-94 by all three unanimously. And we end up with Chris Colbert, the decision winner. It is what it is. I don't get emotional about boxing events. Clearly, boxing fans are a very passionate breed. I understand that if you're upset, I knock it how you view it. I'm just telling you how I viewed it. Now, upon the first watch of that fight, I agreed with the judge's decision on Chris Colbert being the winner of that really close fight, even though he got rocked several times. Unfortunately for Showtime pay-per-views, you can't rewatch them after you've watched them. This isn't like DAZN or like ESPN Plus. I can't go back and see the fight over to see what I might have missed. I got to wait for Showtime to re-release that fight. So until I get to rewatch it, I got to stick by what my notes were when I first watched the fight, and that was Chris Colbert winning. All right, hats off. I don't think Rayo Valenzuela can hang his head low. It was a good fight, good display on both of them. I didn't see any value lost in either fighter. Obviously, Chris Colbert got the win. Chris Colbert got the win. Rayo Valenzuela was very upset. Chris Colbert tried to say he was going to give him a rematch and then decided he didn't want to because he didn't like Rayo Valenzuela's attitude about the decision as it was. Either way, Chris Colbert says he wants to go back down to 130 and get that win back against Hector Luis Garcia and fight for a title. I don't knock that. Obviously, I'm hoping he runs it back with Rayo Valenzuela at 135, but in all honesty, I don't think Chris Colbert has the power to really hang with the big dogs at 135. That's just what I think. Boxing community, for those of you that saw that fight, how did you think it should have played out? Was the decision correct? I don't know. I thought it was. It wasn't in hindsight, according to the masses of people in my comment section, but that's what it is. The main event, Caleb Plant, David Benavidez. My pre-fight prediction was Caleb Plant winning by unanimous decision in a hard fight. I was wrong, clearly, but in other podcasts that I was on, Friends, I definitely said I wasn't confident in that one because there was obviously going to be that possible factor of David Benavidez cardio ramping up and Caleb Plant, who was shown a history of kind of flailing about in the second half of fights. And we saw the traditional Caleb Plant stamina shortage in the second half of that fight. So I had Caleb Plant comfortably winning the first half of that fight, at least 5 of the first 6 rounds, if not the first 6 rounds. And then David Benavidez just took over with that volume and was starting to turn Caleb Plant's face into mush. It's hard to debate that decision. The right decision was made. David Benavidez gets the win over Caleb Plant in a very, very hard-fought affair. We got to see a new dimension to David Benavidez. He made a lot of in-ring adjustments because that first half of that fight, he was kind of getting out. Caleb Plant had better tactical maneuvers, but it looked like Caleb Plant just resigned to the fate in front of him. He stopped sticking to his game plan. And after about halfway through the fight, David Benavidez just kind of took control. And it really just kind of looked like Caleb Plant was in survival mode after David Benavidez found his rhythm and his range. So obviously, David Benavidez wants that fight with Canelo Alvarez next. Now we have the whole boxing world upset about the David Benavidez win because now everybody's demanding Canelo Alvarez fight David Benavidez, and they already were. But he's obviously got that fight with Ryder scheduled in May. most likely wants to fight Bivol in a rematch in September. What happens if Canelo actually beats Bivol? Then we've got a trilogy and he fights Bivol 2024 in May, and we don't even get to see David Benavidez versus Canelo until September of 2024. Be ready for that possibility. I'm just saying, it's possible. Now, also got to take into account the political situation, the politics of it all. You've got David Benavidez. They're going to get the pay-per-view numbers, and I think they're going to be pretty high. I would think they at least did 200,000 pay-per-view units off that. I bought a pay-per-view. Hopefully, it's at least 200,000. If it's 300,000, then the PBC now has another pay-per-view entity in David Benavidez. You know, the politics of it all are going to make it very interesting because does Canelo want to sit down at the bargaining table across from David Benavidez and his representatives, you know, Samson Leibowitz and Al Heyman? Is he going to want to give the broadcasting rights over to the PBC and Showtime? You already know they have these big things about who gets the rights and the back end, and I don't even know. I don't talk about boxing politics. It's beyond me, but it took a lot of haggling and a lot of work to get the Caleb Plant thing over the line, and that was because Caleb Plant had the last belt. So we'll see how that works. I don't know. The politics can be interesting too because there might be a bit of negotiating and haggling back and forth. So congratulations to David Benavidez on that awesome win against Caleb Plant. Obviously, I do not foresee him fighting Canelo next because Canelo has John Ryder and Dimitri Bivol on his ledger. But I did see an interview with David Benavidez manager Samson Leibowitz, and he said that David Morrell and David Benavidez is up next. That's a cool fight too. I have no problem with that fight. Anyways, boxing community, what did you think about David Benavidez's performance? What's next for David Benavidez? Let me know in the comment section. Y'all, let's chop this up. Hit like if you haven't already done so. Press follow. Anyways, this is Hot Boxing Minute, the future of boxing analysis on YouTube and TikTok. Peace.